Jackson?
Here, Southfield.
Thank you. Lubes?
Here in Clausen.
Julia?
You're in Waterford Township.
Nelson?
Here in Waterford Township.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Thank you for the flag, Pam. Next up on the agenda, we have the approval of the minutes from the January 12th Lago meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. They're not in the packet yet.
Oh,
They're
they are
not
not.
ready yet.
Okay. Thank you for that. Moving on then to the approval of the agenda. Are there any additional changes or corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Joliet. Second by Commissioner Gershenson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Excellent. Next up, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address the committee?
Good morning. You currently don't have any public in the committee room A or the auditorium. There are no online or written submissions, and there are no callers on the line as well. So no public comment this morning.
All right, thank you. Seeing none, I will close public comment. Stop seeing that we have no communications. We'll move on to the regular agenda. We need a motion. No motion?
No, I don't believe there's any information in the packet to receive and file. This is an informational from Jim Ryan.
Okay. First up, we've got our legislative update from Jim Ryan. Good morning, Mr. Ryan.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the commission. It's nice to see you. Thank you for putting me up early on the agenda this morning. I appreciate that. The timing for this meeting is pretty good because Lansing has not really been doing a great deal in the last couple of weeks, except governor's periodic updates. However, that will change tomorrow when she delivers the State of the State address, followed 2 weeks later by her budget presentation. So things should start cooking up pretty quickly here. One of the things, or a couple of things that we're hearing that may be discussed in the State of the State tomorrow are, first of all, we think she's going to discuss some bonding with respect to roads, particularly local roads. The year of learning loss, we anticipate her addressing a plan to try to deal with the fact that these kids have been out of school for a full year. Obviously, she'll discuss how the vaccine rollout is going on. Specifically to that issue, I was on a call with the Senate Majority Leader the other day with the local health people, and he expressed a very strong opinion to get special funding for counties such as Oakland, who have created the mega vaccine location, right? Like that, the Novi. So other counties such as Wayne and Kent have also taken that approach, and he is of the opinion that those counties need more money, and we'll be pushing that forward. Obviously, you probably saw maybe a week or so ago, the announcement that we have $5 billion in excess revenue that we did not anticipate. So we are looking for a supplemental appropriations bill to be coming out more than likely prior to the regular budget process. Money's there. As you all know, the devil's going to be in what exactly the Republican legislature and the Democrat governor can agree on. I think they all agree on that some of that money should be spent immediately and the focus should be health. But clearly, these type of discussions tend to get a little political. So hopefully it's a new year and they'll do a good job in coming forward for something positive for the state. I don't know if any of you noticed that the state health director resigned abruptly last week. He has been replaced with his deputy, Elizabeth Hertel, who's been a longtime Lansing person, I guess is the best way to say it. She is married to Senator Hertel, one of the better legislators we've had in Michigan in a long time. So most of the town, we know Elizabeth. She's well qualified for the position, and hopefully she'll go from interim to permanent. We shall see. So those are kind of the quick leading topics that I wanted to bring up today. Obviously, there are last week, Thursday, the new House members and the new House Speaker put forth all of the new committee assignments. So we have all new committees, members on committees. They haven't met yet. They're doing some organizational work this week. And really, we have not been told yet how exactly the committee process is going to work here when they finally come back to town. So it should be an interesting couple of weeks starting tomorrow with the state of the state. And that's the extent of my update that I can think of. That if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Ryan. Do any commissioners have any questions that they'd like to ask? Alrighty, seeing none. Thank you so much.
Stay safe. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Thank you. You as well. Alrighty, moving on to the next item of our agenda, the Rochester Hills Public Library Talking Books Service Annual Report. We need a motion. Moved by Commissioner Gershenson, support by Commissioner Looms. Good morning, Julianne.
Good morning. I am so happy to be here. Thank you for welcoming me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully you can see it. Thank you. Bottom line, this is my first year serving as director of the Rochester Hills Public Library. It's been a tumultuous year, to say the least, to come on board in the 2020 cycle. I often say, I've been here 12 months, but it feels like 12 years. But today we're not really focused on talking about the Rochester Hills Public Library. I want to share with you an update on Oakland Talking Book Service, which is a previously held service that the county was in charge of and then has outsourced to the Rochester Hills Public Library. As part of our contract, we are obligated to provide you with a narrative, a report on how we're doing, but this is a wonderful chance to connect with you via a virtual meeting and just give you an overview of the service for those of you that are new and let you know how we're doing, how the numbers stack up. So, getting started. Sorry, I need to figure out how to advance my slide. Oh, there we are. So what is the OTBS? So we often reduce it down to its acronym, Oakland Talking Book Service at RHPL, Rochester Hills Public Library. So this is a free program that is located at the Rochester Hills Public Library, but it serves all of the residents in Oakland County. The county service moved to Rochester in January of 2013. This was typical of what you were seeing across the entire state of Michigan. So a variety of counties actually made a similar decision. We saw this in Macomb, we saw this in Washtenaw. It was this idea that the counties were sort of looking at this very specialized and niche service and wondering if they were the best persons to deliver it, and then seeing an opportunity to partner with a robust library, a thriving library, and saying, this is really more your lane and we're going to outsource this work to you. Rochester Hills Public Library does have the largest service area in Oakland County. So we serve over 100,000 customers. In a pre-COVID times, we were welcoming 1,000 visitors daily to the library, which is an amazing pride point for us. We have been open for interior access, and over those months, we for sure saw a drop in foot traffic, but we were welcoming around 500 visitors in the COVID months. We also have a very well-established outreach department with existing partnerships with our assisted living facilities. So what we have are actually what we call mini branch locations in our key assisted living facilities. And we have the organizations like Leader Dogs for the Blind that are located here in Rochester that serve as a wonderful partnership as well. So we feel that there was a natural relationship of moving a service like this into the Rochester Hills Public Library. What's important to note is that OTBS is what's considered an AOC, and this stands for Advisory and Outreach Center. This provides personalized service, one-on-one service with our Oakland County residents. And it's something that the state of Michigan just wasn't prepared to do at a full-scale level for all. So this is why they partner with AOCs to essentially carry out that more personalized service. We report to Oakland County, to your legislative committee. We report to the Braille and Talking Book Library at the state level, so they also receive our annual report. And we also report to the National Library Service, the NLS, for the blind and print disabled. That's part of the Library of Congress, and that's sort of who we report to at a federal level. I just think it's important to know that this is part of a much bigger ecosystem, and we are able to lean on our colleagues and learn best practices at all of these different levels. Forward. So who is eligible for the service? Residents of Oakland County who have a permanent or temporary visual or physical impairment that prevent them from reading standard printed text. So it's important for you to note that this is not just someone who was born with a visual impairment. This might be somebody who develops a visual impairment over time. This could also be somebody who is suffering a very temporary loss of either their hands, perhaps it's because of a car accident. So if somebody is unable to hold a book, we see you as qualified for and eligible for this service. What's worth noting is that the application must be certified by a competent authority, an ophthalmologist, an optometrist, because many of our customers and our patrons are coming to us because of the visual impairment. But we would also accept, of course, a doctor's note, a nurse, a therapist, a social worker, or a member of a staff of a residential facility, such as the activities director. In rare cases, the librarian can actually serve as the authoritative person vetting the application, but we really do prefer that it comes from an outside source. I'm proud to let you know that Rochester Hills Public Library is the highest performing advisory and outreach center across the state. And we're measuring this by the number of patrons and total circulation that we have. So here's our annual report by the numbers. This is included in the narrative that I gave to you, and I believe it's on page 4 of your board packet. What you can see here is really just tracking for the last 5 years. You see on that first line what the state funds are. So we do receive a little bit of state aid for carrying out this service and for shouldering this service. You see your county funds. So in the last statistical year, which was 2019, you contributed roughly over $143,000 for us to carry out this service. You see our hours, our on-site visitors, program attendance, and then towards the bottom, it's our registered borrowers of just over 1,200 people and our total circulation of close to 70,000. What I also think is helpful for you to be aware of is just how do we stack up against the other entities that are carrying out similar services. So on this table, what I have listed here for you are actually 12 lines. And it's important to note that that very top line actually represents the service in Lansing. They are the sub-regional library. They're different from an AOC. The remainder of the 11 lines represent entities like ours that are just carrying out that day-to-day guidance and training. But up at the top, you can of course see their funds are close to $2 million. You've got the Braille and Talking Book Library based in Lansing. They're largely in charge of distributing materials to people who are requesting them via mail. The remainder of the 11 AOCs are doing the day-to-day functioning, and they are all operating outside of public libraries. So here you can see how we stack up with our registered patrons. We are the largest in terms of registered patrons, and our circulation is very impressive as well. So how do people use the OTBS? The primary service provided by this program is really these digital talking books. They are really audiobooks. They're delivered via a cartridge largely sent through the US mail, and they can be used with a NLS digital talking book player. And I have one, if you can see me on the screen, I have one here that I included so that you can see that we have these on hand. We use them as devices and props that we can teach people on as they're walking in, and we're helping to educate not only people who will use this service, but typically their caregivers who are coming as well. It's also worth noting that the trends we're seeing is that many people want to be using their own devices to access these audiobooks. So we are pushing and seeing this as a useful future trend to be pushing use of the BARD library, which is the Braille and audio recording download. And BARD is a very popular service that more and more of our customers are using because they can download it to their own devices. When they do utilize our services, where we are putting books on a cartridge, the audiobooks are put on a USB cartridge. They can hold 20 to 30 books depending on the length, and we send them through the US mail. Patrons return the cartridges either to us as the facility, and we can reload them with new books, or they can be returned to that sub-regional library in Lansing, the Braille and Talking Book Library. They can instantly download to BARD, as I mentioned, and there's no waiting time for titles or holds or anything like that. So here's some of the value-added services that you get by working and contracting, outsourcing this to Rochester Hills Public Library. So additional things that we offer are large print and descriptive videos by mail. So customers can let us know their preferences, whether it's their authors or their subjects or things they don't like, in fact. And we have professional librarians who curate a list and send them out through the mail to them. We also consult with them on any Braille books that they would like to receive by mail. And for those individuals who have what's called a Braille e-reader, it actually dynamically changes the raised dots that they can feel. We can actually send them Braille books as well. We have audio magazines that we make available and access to Newsline audio news service. We also circulate low vision aids. We have a variety of magnifiers and video magnifiers and just things that help add to the fulfillment of life because of aging eye health, basically, and they are available for anybody to use. We have some of our more expensive and fancier equipment, the Optelec enlarging and document reader. This is similar to an overhead scanner where the arm comes down and you would place something, whether it's a medicine bottle or a legal document that you had uncovered in perhaps a safe or things like that, and you need to figure out what it says. You can read it and it zooms in the text so that you can see it very amplified on your screen. And then, of course, we have computers with screen readers. This is one of our more popular things. JAWS, perhaps you've heard of, is a very popular screen reading software, but it does require a significant amount of training in order to use it. It's not one of those softwares that it's just plug and play. Additionally, our dedicated OTBS librarian and our assistive technology trainer offer a variety of programs and workshops. We host book clubs, so we do 2 monthly book discussion groups, and that's delivered via phone, so people don't have to come into the library to experience it. We have group programs that are designed specifically for our OTBS patrons. Our past offerings have included Braille jewelry, Fimo clay crafting, origami. And then one of our more popular services is this one-on-one training of adaptive technology. I'm particularly proud of the fact that the individual that we employ has lived with visual impairments for entire life. She's legally blind, and we are so happy that she's on staff because she's a former social worker and she's able to not only train on the adaptive technology, she has that insight into being part of that community and can consult with people in terms of what that means and perhaps some of the transition that they're experiencing. Finally, outreach. It's one of the most important ways we get out the word about this service and help bring in new patrons. Our OTBS librarian attends senior health fairs on an annual basis. Of course, in pre-COVID times, this was sort of the norm, and we're hopefully going to get back into the swing of things in 2021. We visit low vision support groups, our senior living facilities, and other groups that help promote the program and demonstrate the use of equipment. This past year, we actually took our 5th grade field trip. So we partner typically with the Rochester Community Schools, which is the largest school district in Oakland County, on the topic of accessibility. because everything was shut down in 2020, we too had to pivot, and we quickly transposed that 5th grade field trip into an online version. I'm sharing that with you because now we have that packaged up and ready to go, and it's something that we can share with all the communities in Oakland County, not just our local one. New for 2021, there's adaptive technology call-in discussions. So we're going to do it in more of a group format where we can share best practices with apps and adaptive accessible devices. And we're going to increase the frequency of newsletters to our patrons. We're going to go from 2 each year to 4. And then finally, because of this advent of video training and everything we've learned over the last year, we are going to increase our video training resources specifically for our fellow Oakland County libraries. The idea of not just marketing to potential patrons who would use the service, but marketing to our fellow library professionals so that they become advocates and ambassadors for the program as well. I've reached the final slide. I'm happy to take your questions, but before I do that, I do want to extend a special thank you to all of our Oakland County commissioners. This past year, under the direction of County Executive Dave Coulter, you directed special funds to public libraries, community centers, and senior centers. Not all counties did that, and I am so grateful that you did extend that. We were the recipients of generous CARES Act funds that we otherwise would not have been made available to us. So thank you again for seeing the importance and seeing the role that we play in many people's lives, and thank you for supporting us. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Commissioner Gershenson.
Well, thank you for that presentation. It was really great, and it's so nice to meet you.
Thank you.
So I do have some questions, and some of them might be better answered by our Chief of Staff, Mr. Ward, who kind of oversaw the transition when we downsized our law library. So, Mr. Ward, this service was in addition to the law library that we closed out. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner. This actually preceded the downsizing of the law library. It's a contract we've had for a number of years. I think, I'm sorry, maybe you can refresh my memory on it, but I think it's been about 10 years since the Board of Commissioners authorized this contract.
Okay, because I was actually getting it confused with law services. So this has absolutely nothing to do with the transition of the law library that we
So
did.
I would say this is part of a longer term scale down of the law library. We used to have a very large, significant library there, and this was part of it at one time. And as the county decided to scale back its operations at the law library, we entered into this contract with the Rochester Hills Public Library to have them operate the Talking Book service.
So the Talking Book service has nothing to do with a service for lawyers or a service for the public related to law.
That's correct.
Okay, so this is a separate entity, which I was a little confused about, but thank you. So we at this time we're giving $143,000 a year for this service to the library. And is the director still on?
I am, yes.
Okay, good. So of that money, do you have a surplus? How much of that do you utilize?
Oh, we certainly utilize all of the 143, and that's, I will point out, we also receive roughly 40,000 in state aid, and our budget does max out that it's roughly 184,000. So between the 2 dedicated professionals that strictly work in OTBS, and then the other professionals that are trained in how to run OTBS, because we are open 70 hours a week, we are absolutely able to allocate all of those resources on an annual basis.
So I would have liked to have seen that. Did I miss that on a slide? Do you have a breakdown of the expenses?
No, but I'm happy to provide that to you. So perhaps in a follow-up email, I can show you the detailed breakdown for OTBS.
Okay, that would be helpful, particularly because we're deciding on an increase. So I want to understand where that money has gone. And I just wanted to go over your numbers. So you are saying you get 142 visits. Is that, or can you actually pull that slide back up where you break it down? So there were a few categories. So you get annual, no, the one you just went
What
on.
you wanted to see? Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so on this one, the library, you're saying this particular service is open for 3,500 plus hours. You have a 1,207 people using this service totally, whether it's in person or virtually.
correct.
And these materials just relate to programming.
The materials available are the circulating collection. So largely the large print materials that we have, and then the vision, the magnifiers and things that we circulate specifically that were acquired and purchased for OTBS customers.
Okay. And 142 library visits.
In-person visits, correct.
Okay, so that's obviously, I would imagine, down from prior years because of COVID.
And this is the 2019 statistics, so let me be clear on that. Because of how the state, how the state runs their year compared to our calendar year, the most I can report on that's codified is the 2019. The number does reflect some decrease over time, but I did ask my OTBS librarian why this seems to be lower compared to other libraries. She is looking into how other libraries do log the statistic. One of the explanations is that we are specifically just counting our OTBS customers who identify as OTBS customers versus our other AOCs who are just counting any walk-in traffic to their room or their entity, however they have it set up in their facility. I think what's also worth noting is that some of these other libraries are on public transit lines where you do get a lot of easy foot traffic into their facility, and ours being more of a suburban locale does not have that same benefit.
Well, on a separate note, have you ever looked into getting on the transit line?
We would absolutely be in support of that. Given that I've only been here 1 year, it's not something that's come up in my last 12 months, but it would be something that I absolutely do support.
Okay, that's great, because I would highly recommend you do look into it. There is flexibility in setting those routes. Okay, programs offered. So you've offered over the year or 2019, 21 programs that people can call into or people can attend?
Yes.
And then you've had 659 people attend those 21 programs over the year?
Correct.
And then what does the 69,000 circulation mean?
That's the total number of items that we have circulated, so that we have actually sent out, people have enjoyed, and then they've returned to us.
Okay, thank you very much. That's it for right now. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Is there any other further discussion on Commissioner Jackson?
Thank you. Thank you for that presentation, Julianne. Julianne, I just would like to ask you, because you're like the centralized location for this program, and you have outreach services to the other libraries within Oakland County.
We don't have express outreach services that there isn't a other than a display unit that we have. I'm trying to think of what, how to describe it. There's a display unit that we have asked all of our fellow Oakland County libraries to keep on display in their facility. But other than that, we don't really have the mechanism or the infrastructure to require them to have something in their public library. We serve as the resource. So when someone comes to, let's say, a Waterford or a Farmington community library, they don't necessarily have the training, the screen readers, the magnifiers that we do. They are equipped to then refer that patron at their facility over to us. And typically that's done via the phone, and we can just set them up in a virtual sense so that they don't physically have to come to Rochester.
Okay, that was my concern because I represent city of Southfield, and it's the proximity is not very very easy. And then just another question, we've had presentations from other libraries, and I want to say I think it's the West Bloomfield Township Library. They have a very aggressive literacy program for people with special needs. Do you partner maybe with them a little bit more because of that service that they specialize with?
We have a very close relationship with West Bloomfield Public Library. In fact, the largest libraries are largely in Oakland County that we work with on a regular basis. So we learn best practices from them. Oftentimes we'll bring in a speaker who is from a different library who can speak to something a little bit more in depth, but we value the fact that they're then training our librarians, and then our librarians are best trained for how to then deliver that service to our patrons as well. So I do think that there's absolutely a collaborative nature when you work in libraries, and we are always trying to learn best practices and how to extend and leverage our resources in the best way possible.
Okay, so with this presentation today, do we have anything or any suggestions from you how we could help talk up what you're doing and promote the service to our local libraries?
I would say first and foremost, it's just awareness. I know some of you are relatively new commissioners, and so part of what I wanted to establish is just what is this service so that you feel comfortable talking it up. It's one of those things where, as being a new director, I'm coming in with fresh eyes in terms of what we do with our marketing and our outreach. We actually have a whole new team that I've invested in for marketing and outreach. So you can see on some of my future forecasts for 2021. I'm a big believer in bite-sized video presentations, and so we will be sharing those with our partner libraries and hopefully just broadcasting more about what we can do at Rochester to help support and assist them. So you serving as ambassadors and knowing about this program, I think, is critical as well.
All right, I think so too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion on item number 2? Alrighty, seeing none, thank you so much. Oh, Commissioner Gershenson.
Yes, could I ask that before we vote on this on the commission level, which is next week, could you get us those figures of a breakdown of the expenses?
Certainly, and perhaps I can just ask for some clarification on, and in terms of voting. We have a contract that does run until 2022. So I believe that is already established, and it already has an increase that is included in that contract. I believe this year, and again, this is my first year doing it, this is me just submitting a report for you to accept and file. But if there's something else that you do want to take action on, I will absolutely expedite that budget breakdown for you.
Well, thank you for clarifying. You're absolutely right. It is a receive and file. But I nonetheless, I would like to see the breakdown of expenses.
I will do that for you, no doubt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julianne, for providing us with an update and an overview of the Rochester Hills Public Library Talking Book Service. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll sign off now. Thank you.
Have a good day. Can I get a motion to receive and file item number 2? Motion by.
We do have a motion already. We did that at the beginning. So we just need a voice vote.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Pam.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item on our regular agenda, number 3, Human Resources, Fiscal Year 2020 Wage Reopener for Employees, represented by the Michigan Nurses Association. Can I get a motion? Motion by Commissioner Lubes, support by Commissioner Jackson. Welcome, April.
Hi there. How are you guys?
Good.
Good. You can hear me? You can hear me? Good. Okay. So what you have before you is one in a series of a few unions that have what we call wage reopeners this year. I mean, actually, they had them last year, but in anticipation of waiting for the compensation study, we delayed them about a year. So we have the Michigan Nurses Association is up, GELC, which is the governmental employees group out of the Children's Village, and AFSCME out of Circuit Court. as well as a wage reopener with IBEW. So you'll start seeing a series of those coming before you. The Nurses Association is the one that we completed first. What you have before you is a request for new wages for them. A couple of things just so you know and understand how we've been approaching this. It's a little different than in the past. First and foremost, we typically don't do wage reopeners. A lot of times it'll be a me too, but again, I think in anticipation of the COM study at that time, folks were asking for wage reopeners. So what we take a look at is what's going on in the market. We have quite a series of different surveys that we take a look at, ONET, Gallagher, Mercer, for the private, for those that might have comparables in the private area. We also take a look at equity in within their unit, as well as this is the first time that we started to take a look at how does their positions fit within the equity of the organization as a whole, using some of the compensation information that we received. So that's a little bit new, and I think hopefully a little bit more keeping everybody in alignment as it relates to wages. So given all of that information, the nurses overall, we have 3 levels of nurses. We have level 1, 2, and 3. In general, you'll see that they received about a 4% increase within their unit. That keeps them definitely in line with market for other public health nurses, but in this instance too, we have an interesting issue with nurses is the fact that we have a private sector to compete with as well, which is unusual. You don't have as much of that in government, but in this instance we do. So we'll be working with them again. All of these unions also are reopened. They all expire this year in October. So we have more conversations to have with them on recruiting and different things that we may want to take a look at. So they're a little bit less than, I say that loosely, than market, only because the market is such a general field. It could be emergency room nurses, overtime to be in there, but they're definitely moved more toward the more in line with market. So we'll be working with them again in general, but this is their wage reopener as we are requesting for approval at LAGO. Is there any questions?
Do any commissioners have any questions for April? Commissioner Joliet?
Hi, I am a new commissioner, so I just have one question in regards to, and this preceded me, the 1% equity adjustment, which I spoke with Mike Andrews and he explained to me how that came about. And just for clarification, that 1% was a one-time, that wasn't added to their base to
Correct.
into the 2 to 4%. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for April? Alrighty, April, I just have a quick question. I think you already answered it, but we should be expecting over the next coming months to hear other bargaining units coming to this committee regarding their wage reopener?
Yes. Yep, you'll expect, we should probably at the next one, I'm thinking we'll have AFSCME and GELC as well. And then we have a small break, just so you guys will get a lot more. We're actually every unit except for 2. Actually, yeah, 2 are open. We have 8 unions now, so we'll be bargaining all summer long with all of those folks, and that's a whole total reopener.
Excellent, thank you. Is there any other further discussion on item number 3? Commissioner Gershenson.
Well, April, I just wanted to state, which I'm sure you feel, and most of us feel, the important role that our nurses have played and that nurses are playing in general during this whole pandemic. And I just wanted to relay that sentiment as you go forward, how valued this team is to us and what a phenomenal job they've done.
Absolutely.
Is there any other further discussion on item number 3? Alrighty, well, thank you so much, April. Seeing none,
Thank you.
Call, please.
Commissioners Gershenson,
Yes.
Oakendorfer is absent with notice. If I didn't mention that before, Jackson,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Joliet,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 5 yeas and 0 nays.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to our next item, number 4, Parks and Recreation Commission, approval of 2021 grant application, United States Fish and Wildlife Service National Fish Passage Program Need a motion? Motion by Commissioner Joliet, support by Commissioner Luce. All right, I'd like to bring forth, I believe we have Melissa here with us from the Parks and Rec. Oh, is it Mr.
Yep.
Stencil?
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
I'm Stencil, Executive Officer for Oakland County Parks. Our commission and staff respectfully propose this grant opportunity with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for the National Fish Passage Program. This is a collaborative partnership with the Springfield Township to remove the dam at the Davisburg Mill Pond. And Melissa Prouse, our supervisor of planning and resource development, is on the call, and I'll give you the details. Melissa?
Good morning, everyone. So as Dan mentioned, this is an application to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's National Fish Passage Program. And I want to first, I guess, thank the board staff for helping us get this on the agenda this morning. We are testing out your new board rules because this application is actually due tomorrow. We received notification and a invitation to apply on January 5th. So it's a very quick turnaround. But this, as Dan mentioned, is for the Mill Pond Dam Removal and Restoration Project. Committee members will remember we were here a few weeks ago with a different application for the same project. You'll be seeing even more over the course of the spring and summer. We are hoping to have this project at least 50% grant funded. It's a $1.6 million project. So we're working very hard on these different applications. And we appreciate the leniency with letting this one get through and get applied tomorrow. We are seeking $200,000. And we have been encouraged by the staff of the Fish and Wildlife Service to apply this year. They think we have a very competitive opportunity to get funded this year. So if there's any questions, we're happy to take them.
Ready, commissioners have any? Commissioner Joliet.
I see that the match that it was budgeted for, it also said Springfield Township has budgeted a match as well. So that will they be contributing to that match?
Yeah, so we actually have a standing MOU with Springfield Township for the repair, the maintenance, and the operation of that dam. So this is kind of an extension of that agreement, the removal and the restoration project. So they will cost share with us. We contribute 55% and they contribute 45% on all expenses. So yes, they're very much at the table as a financial partner as well.
And that percentage was determined by the amount of footage on the frontage of the mill pond.
Yep, the ownership, yep.
All right, thank you.
Is there any other for Commissioner Gershenson?
Well, I really do appreciate you coming and acknowledging that we are trying to change the whole grant process. And so moving forward, I hope we can work out the timing a little bit better, but we understand that there is going to be a period of time where we're just catching up. So thank you for understanding our new way of looking at grant approvals.
Yeah, you're very welcome. We're happy to comply. Most of the time we have a pretty good lead time. Some of these federal programs, you have to have a contact with the local agency in order to get invited to apply. So we're kind of at the whim of them notifying us. So this one definitely was a short time frame, but usually we have a little bit more.
And we do appreciate you being aggressive in your grant search to try to supplement these expenditures.
Yeah, we're very lucky with this project. There's a lot of funding, both state and federal, for dam removal and restoration projects. It's a high priority for a lot of agencies.
Excellent. Is there any other further discussion on item number 4? All right, hearing none, roll call please.
Commissioners Jackson,
Yes.
Luce,
Yes.
Joliet,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
And thank you, Dan and Melissa, for coming forth to the committee.
Thank you.
you all.
Next up on our agenda is item number 5, the reestablishment of the Oakland County Trafficking Task Force 2021 to 2022. Moved by Commissioner Jackson, support by Commissioner Looms. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on behalf?
Sure. Bringing forth this resolution, again, to restate the reestablishment of the Oakland County Human Trafficking Task Force, a collaborative effort between the Board of Commissioners and our collaborative partners that include the Sheriff's Department, Health and Human Services, Prosecutor's Office, the courts, the schools, youth assistance, victim service agencies, survivors, and an outreach liaison that will help connect us with other task force, municipal and county task force around the state. This would be the fourth term reestablishment of this task force. We've been successful at implementing a hotline number, a website, all types of assistance information for people in the county just to become aware and help prevent crime and plague. That especially was exhibiting itself in the south end of Oakland County originally on the onset of this task force, but we see that it's occurring throughout the county in sex and labor trafficking. So.
Well, Commissioner Jackson, I'd just like to say that I am appreciative and thankful of your leadership. With this task force, it's so important to continue to increase that public awareness and education. Definitely. So thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Is there any other further discussion on this item? All righty. Seeing none, roll call, please.
On item number 5, Commissioners Loops,
Yes.
Joliet,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item of our agenda, number 6, the designation of February 2021 as African American History Month in Oakland County. May I receive a motion? Motion by Commissioner Loop, support by Commissioner Jackson. Again, Commissioner Jackson, can I ask you to briefly report on this recommendation?
I just really am happy to ask for support of this commemorative resolution as we recognize the contributions and what the African American population in the county and the country and the world has given as far as a people, and we recognize our what we have done as a people to make the world a better place, as far as inventions, as far as education, as far as social activism. I just am really very proud to bring forth this commemorative resolution and hope that we can incorporate some type of presentation during youth in government, because I think this is the first time we've held youth in government in February. So I'm going to see if that occurs. So thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Is there any other further discussion on this item? All righty, seeing none, roll call, please.
On item number 6, Commissioners Joliet,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Loops,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to the last item on our agenda today, number 7, the Parks and Recreation Commission review. All right, and Pam, we don't need any, just because it's informational right now.
We actually, you'll need to, if you decide to interview or appoint or,
Perfect.
there will be a motion for that.
Thank you. So as we all know, the citizen appointment on the Oakland County Parks and Recreation Commission Board was posted for 1 week earlier this month. And we received a tremendous amount of interest from individuals across Oakland County. And While applicants have proven to be dynamic in their experiences and their background, it is very clear that candidates are avid supporters of our Parks and Recreation Commission here in Oakland County. Upon reviewing all applications, in addition to receiving additional feedback from Commissioner Gary McGilvery, who is the chairman of our Parks and Recreation Commission board, 18 candidates had been suggested based upon their experiences and backgrounds in recreational planning, budget, finance, familiarity and use of our parks across Oakland County. And I'd also like to note that committee members were most certainly encouraged to bring forth additional candidates outside of those suggested applications. Before we go into opening this item up for discussion, I would like to thank all the individuals who showed interest and applied to the citizen appointment on the Parks and Rec Commission board. The overwhelming responses we received is yet another great indication of the importance and values our parks bring to residents across Oakland County. And today, I'm confident that this committee will be able to narrow down applicants to hopefully a top 5 or 6 and proceed with conducting interviews at our next committee meeting on February 9th. For time's sake, I'd like to structure the discussion starting off with addressing any concerns and questions and comments, followed by commissioners bringing forth their top 2 to 3 candidates, and then move into an open discussion on that, and then hopefully proceed forward, as Pam had mentioned just earlier on, in regards to making a motion to pursue those interviews on February 9th. So with that being said, are there any questions or comments before we start really looking at candidates? Commissioner Gershenson.
Yes, so the amount of applicants was unprecedented, just so Ms. Joliet isn't turned off by this whole experience. And I have heard reasons why. Has that been, do we have a definite understanding of what happened, why we do not? Or
Pam?
I understand that someone shared this on LinkedIn, so I'm not sure if there was a thought that this was an employment opportunity as opposed to a volunteer. I don't know, but this is the first time I've seen this many.
So I was going to recommend maybe on our application that we put something about not posting without consulting with the Board of Commissioners, or not reposting, without approval or permission, or that the first 25 applicants will be considered, the rest will be put on a waiting list. Just something to kind of alert the public that we're not going to be interviewing everyone that applies. So it's somewhat misleading, because when you apply for something, you expect some sort of response back, whether it's we're not considering you or we are. So I'm just recommending that we look at our application process, our posting process, so that we can try to avoid this happening in the future.
Sure. Alrighty, is there any other questions, comments? Alrighty. Oh, was someone going to say something?
Yeah, Dan Stencil. I just wanted to thank the board for the exhaustive effort to promote this opportunity. From our standpoint, if these individuals who are not selected, we have a number of volunteer opportunities that they could support the park system, either. So we definitely would love to follow up with the candidate pool.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Stencil. Alrighty, then, Commissioner Lubes.
I want to confirm that there's one vacancy open on the park board, and then this is the time we would make suggestions of people to interview.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I would like to interview Jenny Martin and Jeff Kingset.
Okay. Commissioner Jackson.
You're muted, Commissioner Jackson.
So sorry. I would like to interview Lance Stokes. I don't see him making the top 18 either.
He's not on this list, Janet? What's his name?
Lance Stokes.
Okay.
And can you tell us something about him?
Well, basically, he has been a brownfield developer with the county for years and years. I want to say assisting on projects over the last 20 years, basically as a partner. Specifically, kind of because of the way the county has done business in the past, and just a way to enable him to participate in county developing. He also has a large volunteer background, City of West Bloomfield, and very proficient in these types of land matters.
Thank you.
So what would we do? Because I see everyone else, their information is here. How do we kind of bring forth for Mr. Stokes, Mr. Kensett, and I forgot the other person's name that Penny mentioned.
So the idea is after discussions today, make a motion to interview the specific individuals and then proceed to our February 9th LAGO meeting and hold brief interviews.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank
Have them join us and proceed with, a 5 to 8 minute interview.
And one more point of clarification I want to direct to Commissioner Gershenson, because she's been part of this process, I think a little bit more than any of us in the past. What would be the average face-to-face interviews that the committee would conduct?
You mean time-wise?
No, number-wise, number of folks.
Certainly there's been a range. I think it's probably gone maybe in the 4 to 8 range.
Okay.
Because there are so many good candidates on this list, I was kind of wanted to listen to everybody's suggestions, because there's so many I would be comfortable recommending.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, thank you. I was kind of like in my mind's eye, I was like, are we going to proceed with 10 or just wondering in the past how many face-to-face?
Say with some of the names that have already been shared, at least one of them has been a candidate I was also going to bring forward. So I think after hearing, maybe we'll get Marcia, Karen, and then myself will jump in and see if there's any crossovers with candidates to really take a look at minimizing, but also recognizing that we had a plethora of applicants to choose from. Commissioner Gershenson, did you want to share your recommended candidates?
Sure. Well, out of a courtesy to Mr. Costin, it has been recommended, as he is the person whose position is we're talking about, that he be extended the courtesy for an interview. I also was listening to Commissioner McGilvery's recommendation of somebody who has a strong financial background, a user of the parks, and was a senior. And so along those lines, I was looking at Lori Orrell from West Bloomfield and Margot Pernick. I wondered how the committee felt about extending another interview to AC Alry, who did apply in the past. So those are some of mine, but again, I'm really open.
Excellent. Okay. Commissioner Joliet, did you want to share any top candidates?
Yeah, I, along with Commissioner Gershenson, Robert Costin, I saw that he is or was the current sitting, so I thought it would be appropriate to extend him an invitation. I also like Jeffrey Kingset. His involvement with Six Rivers. I sat on a nature center here in Waterford, Drayton Plains, and they're heavily instrumental in doing a lot for parks. And also the Etten Ulray. I thought he was his resume looked good. He had a lot in urban planning and map and that kind of thing.
Excellent.
Which one was that?
AC?
AC Ulray.
Oh, AC.
Yeah, sorry.
And I do actually have some similar suggestions as well. I also thought bringing back AC this year again for another interview was good. And in addition to Jenny Martin, and the other one that I had pulled was, I believe it's Nima Lindley. And one of the things that really drew me to this application, the way that they had stated on their application that, as a disabled citizen, having the opportunity to bring that perspective to the Parks and Rec Commission to look at how they could improve and contribute to improving accessibility for individuals across Oakland County. And I find that very valuable. And outside of those three, I also had suggested, I believe it was Robert Costin as well. So with that being said, it looks like we do have some overlaps in regards to Robert, Jeffrey, me, and AC. So,
How many is that?
So it looks like all together. And Commissioner Gershenson, did you say, what was the Lori's last name that you had suggested?
Lori Oral, but I recommended Margot Pernick or Lori Oral, but I'm looking at Margot Pernick again, and she has extensive financial experience, which Commissioner McGilvery mentioned in managing $3.5 million in grants. So I guess I would, over Lori Oral, I would probably go with Margot Pernick.
Okay. So then it sounds like we have Margot, AC, Lance Stokes, Jenny Martin, Robert, Jeff, and Nima. Am I forgetting any name that was mentioned?
What was Nima's last name again?
Lindley, Lindley. Pam, did you get?
I'm showing, you guys mentioned 8. Jenny Martin, Jeff Kingset, Lance Stokes, Robert Costin, Lori Oro, Margot Pernick, AC Allray, and Nima Lindley.
I took off Lori Orwell in favor of Pernick, but I also wanted to mention Kelly Heyer. I wanted just to take another look at that since she's had extensive experience with parks. I'm just not sure what the priority would be. If it's the financial piece, if it's, I know that they recommend someone who uses the parks, who knows the parks as well. which is what I wonder about NOMI. Now, certainly I feel that's worth an interview just because that's such a unique perspective.
So Marcia, did you want to, I know that Pam had shared we had 8 and that included Lori. Would you like to have Lori still remain and add on Kelly?
And I'll replace Lori with Kelly.
Okay. Is there any other comments, thoughts in regards to candidates for the citizen appointment on the Parks and Rec Commission board?
So that's 8.
That is 8. Alrighty, see none. Do I have a motion to continue with the interviews with these 8 candidates? Motion by Commissioner Joliet and support by Commissioner Jackson. Pam, would that be a voice vote or a roll call?
You can do a roll call or voice vote, either one.
Call, please. Thank you.
So you want a roll call, did you say?
Yes, please.
Okay. Commissioners Gershenson,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Loops,
Yes.
Joliet,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
and I'm sure you have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, I appreciate commissioners having this conversation because it was not an easy feat to go over 144 applications. And, you know, as I think we're all aware of that, as Dan even said too, even though this is one appointed vacant citizen position, it just gives us a great indication that there are avid Parks supporters and lovers out there. And while it does come down to one applicant and candidate, we welcome any volunteers who would like to give us their time to support our mission here on the Parks and Rec Commission. So again, I want to just thank all the applicants who did submit and demonstrate their interest. Is there, Commissioner Gershenson?
Yeah, I want to talk about how it's going to look, the interview process, and putting a time limit on it, and with the understanding that there is a committee that follows us at 11, and how Commissioner Lube sees that all working out. So I thought that would be a worthwhile conversation.
Well, I definitely think that it's going to be time sensitive in regards to, you know, when we've done these interviews in the past in the LAGO committee, they really haven't exceeded, I believe, 8 minutes. And I think that's been roughly the max. So ideally, I would like to get together and have some structured questions to ask. I know that there are some common questions that we typically ask with these appointed positions, and more specifically, it's a time commitment. With this appointment, it does not only have a stipend that is attached to it, but there's also schedule importance and making sure that the individuals are aware that their attendance at these meetings is essential. Aside from that, what I'd like to do is that if commissioners would like to send, you could send me, you can send our supporting staff, Michael Andrews or Amy, specific interview questions that you have in mind. And that way I would like to have it be a collaborative effort of the commissioners on this committee to be a part of the interview process, but also, as Commissioner Gershenson highlighted, that to do so in a mindful way when it comes to time. Followed by Commissioner Lewis.
Yeah, also, I mean, I think the people that we're interviewing should be apprised of the time schedule, obviously. And in the past, when we've discussed commissioners, I mean, when we've discussed applicants, we've gone off camera, and just to respect the applicant's privacy. And I don't know how that would work, whether we can shut out the public from these calls, during our discussion after the interviews. I mean, the interviews are public for sure, but then the discussion that follows often has been private. So I wanted to talk about that. And I also wanted to say, if we wanted to schedule some after the health committee too, if we find maybe we can schedule some before, but maybe we should go and look at after health.
Sure. I think those are great suggestions. Commissioner Lubes?
I wanted to suggest, depending on what's on the next agenda, we might consider starting this committee at 9. So if we allot 5 to 8 minutes per 8 people, we all know that some of the interviews are going to run over, some will be on time. So that's at least an hour for that. So we might consider beginning that meeting at 9.
I think that's a great suggestion. Do any members of this committee foresee any time issues, scheduling issues with starting our February 9th meeting at 9 o'clock? Okay. Then we'll make that adjustment February 9th to address some of the things that Commissioner Christensen had shared. I know we've been in conversations with staff, specifically in regards to how we proceed with having some discussions after those interviews take place. And is there anyone on this call from staff that have maybe an update from that in regards to how we will proceed with, are we taping, are we not taping those discussions afterwards? And how does that fare and align with obviously our Open Meetings Act?
I've been in conversation with Megan, and we're going to discuss after this meeting how we can regulate how we do this. Because, I mean, they do have a time slot for when they are to be interviewed. But as you know, sometimes they come in early. And so we're going to be, I'm going to be working with that issue with Megan to see how we can streamline it. And perhaps even it could be like a discussion after, you know, like after the interviews, you could have your discussion after the business part of the meeting or something like that. We could go off camera or however, you know, we can talk it through.
Sure. Well, thank you, Pam. And if possible, can we send out maybe a memo when we have more concrete information to commissioners so we can have a bunch of with that?
Yes, we'll definitely keep you in the loop on it and ask for input.
Excellent.
Works for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other? Commissioner Gershenson?
And Pam, could I ask you to resend out the resumes for those people that we're interviewing? Because a lot of the questions come from their direct resume, from their direct application. Thank you.
I'm sorry, you blanked out a little bit. What was the last question?
A lot of our questions will come from their application.
Yeah, what I usually do is I'll put together a packet of the interview packet for the meeting for you, and you'll have everything you need.
Thank you.
Excellent. And Pam, within that interview packet that will be sent out, can we also attach questions that we've typically asked during these kinds of appointments? And in addition to, I encourage commissioners, if there are questions that are not within that packet, we encourage those questions to be asked. So is there any other further business to come before the Legislative Affairs and Government Operations Committee? All right, seeing none, I declare this meeting adjourned at 10:44 a.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.